All right, welcome to the show, everyone. You know me, I'm your lovely host, Lance Cook. And I am really, really excited about today's episode because I have got one of the coolest people that I've ever ran into on the show. Her name is Natalie Kelly, but you probably know her as the Fly Girl. Natalie Fly Girl Kelly. Natalie, introduce yourself.
Hi, Lance. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad that you're able to come on the show.
Well, I'm thrilled that you invited me. It's really, really sweet. I'm Natalie Kelly, or Fly Girl Kelly, pilot, mom, CEO of Fly Girl and a nonprofit, the Fly Foundation.
Very cool. Now, the reason that you came up, that this whole conversation came up, I wanted to reach out to you and invite you onto the show. I have been looking in the Sporties catalogs for years, right? And I see your apparel. I see Fly Grill Apparel, and I've got a couple daughters, and I think, hey, that'd be great. And then later on Instagram, I started following you, not even realizing that this was the same person. I just like, cool aviator, pilot, all this cool adventure stuff. And I'm following that, engaging with it. It's like, man, this is cool stuff. And then later I'm flipping back through the Sporty. Wait a minute. This is the same person.
It clicked.
So, yes, it did. Yes, it did. So whenever we're talking about Fly Girl Apparel, I'm not saying you, but for those that are listening, we're talking about the t-shirts, the hoodies I just saw, and a lot of other things, actually. But when it comes to the Fly Girl Apparel, how in the world did you get into this? Because this is no small deal anymore. This is not just, a couple t-shirts a month. This is a huge deal that this has turned into. How did you get into Fly Girl Apparel?
Well, I started flying probably it's been on 4 years ago, actually, going on 5. And I actually trained at Sporties in Cincinnati, Ohio. And when I was training, now this is something that I'm a little bit older. I'm mid-40s at this point when I started flying. I have 3 kids, all boys, and it was something that I wanted to do for a really long time, was learn to fly. I had a bucket list that I created in 1999, and it was typed up on like a word processor. And I remembered it. I kind of have like a photographic memory with things, and I remembered it, typing it and putting it on there. And being a mom was super hard and super busy, and my kids were getting older, and we had some struggles in our family. And one day I was just like, you know what? I think it's time for me to start flying. So I called up Sporties, and probably a week or 2 later started taking lessons there, and absolutely loved it. I was kicking myself because I hadn't started sooner. But I was probably flying 3 days a week. I started just full on ready to go. And once I got into it, I really wanted to have something to wear to show women that if I can fly, then you can fly. And so I wanted something that showed that I was learning to fly, or that I was interested in flying, a pilot. And I couldn't really find anything cute and stylish that I would want to purchase. So I got together with a friend, and she's a graphic designer. She helped me come up with the logo. And I thought I'll just print it on some t-shirts for myself, basically, and wear them to air shows and stuff. And after, a while, we finally got something printed and had an idea. And I happened to kind of at the same time really thought, well, I kind of want to give a scholarship out to try to get someone interested in it. And, what else can I do to encourage a woman or females to get into flying? And money is usually, it's not cheap to learn to fly. And I know a lot of parents, not just moms, but dads too, have a hard time justifying the cost of flight training when you've got all this other stuff going on.
Right.
So I thought, all right, I think I want to do this scholarship, and I want to come up with, something to wear. And if people, I thought I'd just have like my own little store online or something. And if they were interested, I would, try to direct them to that website. But then I approached Sporties, and I had a pretty good relationship with them at this point because of my flight training there. I've gotten to know a lot of people there, and had said, hey, I had this idea. They were, I wouldn't say reluctant, but they had said, we've tried women's apparel and it really doesn't normally do that well, but we're willing to try it. And I would consider myself kind of a stylish person. So I kind of knew what women would want to be wearing. I knew what was in style. So I knew kind of what kind of t-shirts they needed to look like. They couldn't just be like a boxy,
Right.
man's shirt just in a smaller size. It needed to be something kind of fitted and stylish, and like some baseball caps and things like that women could use and be comfortable as either a pilot or a co-pilot with their husband or significant other in the airplane. And they could proudly wear these shirts that showed that they were into aviation, in one way or the other. So they were like, okay, let's try it. And we did. And kind of at the same time, I was building my social media channels and really demonstrating through photos and stories that what my flight training was like, what I was going through, what I was doing. And that following just grew and grew, and started making some YouTube videos, and Sporties and I worked together on a couple of videos, and it just started growing, and it just caught on.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the first scholarship I self-funded. And then after that, I wanted the sale proceeds from the products to go towards flight training scholarships. I knew that was something I wanted to continue. And that has been kind of what it's been like ever since. I think I've given away probably about $25,000 in aviation scholarships, a variety of scholarships, like for private or instrument, a seaplane scholarship we gave away, and through Women in Aviation, through MBAA and Women in Corporate Aviation, been able to really do a lot. And that there's nothing that has, I just love it. Absolutely love it.
So at what point did you go from, I just want to make cool apparel, to, I think I can make an impact in other women's lives in aviation? When did that happen? What took place? Why that shift?
I think it happened probably when I was probably getting pretty close to, preparing for my solo. I was kind of all in the training, and it really, everything changed in me. Flying changed. My confidence grew tremendously. It was like all of a sudden I felt like I could do anything. And if I could fly an airplane, because I didn't consider myself like super smart or anything. And I thought initially that I wasn't sure I was going to make it, because I think you got to be really good at math, and you got to be really, intelligent in all levels. And I just didn't feel like I was that. But then as I got into it, I thought, gosh, I'm just an ordinary person. And if I can do this, then I don't want anybody to think they can't do it, that it's going to be too hard. And it opened up this huge, you build this family in aviation too. The friendships I was building, the opportunities through Sporties and Fly Girl, and was like, I know there are some women that would love this as either a hobby or as a career, but they just can't, find that motivation or take that step to do it. And I want to do whatever I can to do that, whether through the, wearing a t-shirt or giving them money for a flight training scholarship, and just showing on social media that it's possible for anybody. A 44-year-old mom of 3 kids can start. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. Now, you talked about this being, flying in itself being something on your bucket list. Mm-hmm. Why was that on your bucket list in the first place? Me, my father was a pilot. He got his license when he was 17. I was still in diapers, standing at the yoke, making the plane bank real hard to the right and left, flying with him. And he's like, "Whoa, son, bring that back." But what stirred your interest in aviation?
Well, my dad was a pilot. He was a pilot in the Navy. And then he went on, after he retired from the Navy, to fly for FedEx. And then, so I never flew with him because it was all military and professional, things like that. My uncle was actually a general aviation pilot, and we had moved to the small town where he had lived, and he used to take me flying in his plane, and he had a love of warbirds. And I learned a lot through warbirds. I learned a lot. I love the warbirds. That is something I'm super passionate about too. I volunteer with the Commemorative Air Force and
cool.
The Red Tail Squadron. So that kind of tells the Tuskegee Airman story.
Yes.
With the Mustang, and now we're coming out with a Wasp. It actually came out last year, but the whole air show thing was kind of a bust last year.
Right.
And I love that part about aviation because it just taught me a lot about history. And I think kids could, if you can kind of bring those two together, kids can really learn a lot about history through these cool airplanes and aviation. But, I think there's something about pilots that I just had this adventure side to me, and just this thing. I knew my dad, I didn't see him flying, but I knew he did something really cool because people would want to talk to him, and he was from a small town. And when he'd come home to the small town, people just thought he was the bee's knees. Everybody wanted to talk to him. And I thought, what is this thing that he's doing that's so cool? Because it was like attracted to him. And then when my uncle would take me flying, I thought it's just so unique. And that there aren't many people that do it. And something about that, doing something unique and something kind of a little bit adventuresome with a little bit of an adrenaline rush is something that appeals to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got your start. You knew that your dad was a pilot. Your uncle really introduced you to what it's like to fly. So it became on your bucket list. You started flying. You wanted to create the cool apparel. That turned on a different switch, a different shift for you to a greater mission of introducing aviation to other women. And along the last 4, 5, 6 years, you've owned a couple of different planes. And now you're in an RV4? RV8. Okay.
Yes. It's a tricycle gear RV. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I had Piper Archer before that. Bought that Piper Archer towards the end of my private pilot training to do my instrument and my commercial training in.
Very cool. Very cool. How do you like the RV?
I love it.
Okay.
It's been a totally.
You hesitated a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a very different experience than owning the Piper Archer, than having the certificated airplane and experimental airplane. And I know there's a video here somewhere. I just can't figure out how to marry the two and create something to talk about. I've had to learn a lot. With the certificated airplane, things are just kind of built in. There's kind of things that are going to get taken care of because they have to be, and it's more expensive, definitely, to have a certificated airplane. But there's also things like I had an issue with the RV. I've had several issues with it actually, and when you take it in to get worked on, if that person didn't build it, they really don't know exactly. There's plans, but whoever built it didn't have to go by those plans. So we had an issue with the magnetometer, and I took it into a shop, and he's like, I can kind of guess maybe where they put it, but I'm gonna have to open up the plane and we got to figure out where it's at. And it happened to be mounted too close to one of the lights, position lights, and it caused an interference with my A harsh, so I had a glass panel and everything, and it was like going all wonky and couldn't figure out why. And
Wow.
the person that sold it to me apparently didn't have any idea that it was doing that, but it was fixed when we moved the magnetometer. So it's like, okay, I don't know. It's hard to troubleshoot things, and because they're each very unique, and it's a fast plane, it's sometimes it's a little scary for me. If I haven't flown in a while, then it just is very sensitive and fast, and I want to be safe.
I mean, it's like going from the minivan to the Corvette.
Yeah.
It's that's what I picture. I mean, I don't know. I'm the only high performance plane that I've been in was my dad's Bonanza whenever he was trying to give me a little instruction in that. And I went to try to ram the throttle forward and to take off, and I was not ready for that. I'm used to my Warrior, and Warrior's not bad. It's 160 horse. It's not bad for a starter plane, if you will, like that. But you can ram the throttle forward and be just fine. Not in the Bonanza, not in his.
Yeah.
So I could just imagine what it's like, especially in something as light as yours.
Yeah, it is. And, I'm actually training in a Cessna, the 172 XP I've got access to, and it's a 210 horsepower. And, it's very different than like the 172 that I trained in. It's very heavy. It's very, every plane is different. And I guess trying to remind myself of that every time I get in a different plane, especially in my plane, because I feel like things can get out of hand with it pretty quick. It gets off the ground so fast, and it's so light and nimble, which is fun. Yeah. But I can see, I just have to keep it just very controlled and tame, or because I don't want something stupid to happen, with the plane.
Is that aerobatics capable?
Yeah. Yeah.
You gonna do any of that?
I would love to. Yeah. That's why I bought an RV, because my uncle did all that stuff, and he did the aerobatics, and he taught himself how to do that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. He I talked to him. So he's flown over 50 years, and he got his pilot's license from the GI Bill. And he read books. He's always read books. He doesn't really watch much TV. And then he would go fly. Like, he would read how to do a barrel roll and then go do it. And, I'm not going to do that. I want someone to actually do a course, or have somebody actually go with me. But he loved that, and he loved formation flying. And, he just retired recently, actually, because he didn't feel like, he's 84, and he felt like he needed to get out now before it was too late and something happened.
Potentially dangerous.
He knew that his reflexes were getting slower, and he said, if I can't do aerobatics and formation flying, then I just don't want to fly. So he's just completely out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with your business that became not just a t-shirt making business, but became a mission. Mm-hmm. Tell me about some stories of maybe somebody that you helped through a scholarship that just really makes you proud to be able to do this for them. Oh,
wow. There's so many stories. I feel very fortunate that I've been able to. Yeah. There was a girl, the first one we did was, and I call all women girls, by the way. I think that's a Southern thing. I'm not sure, but there was a girl that was training at Sporty's when I started the whole scholarship thing. And it started out only being a Cincinnati scholarship thing that you could apply for. And I think I had maybe 25 applicants or something for a $5,000 scholarship. And this girl had gone to school, gotten a degree. She was in her mid-20s, really got a degree in something that she really wasn't that interested in, and started taking flying lessons. And, the sacrifices that she made to try to afford her flight lessons, she would just tell me I'm in an apartment and I'm thinking, do I want a new couch or do I want a gas for the airplane?
That's funny.
So she wanted, she's actually an aerial survey pilot now out in Colorado. And
wow.
I keep in touch with her. She was doing her private and she got through her instrument, commercial, CFI, CFII, pretty quickly with the help of those funds. There's another girl last year that I gave one to. She had a really well-paying job. And she was just not happy. And, she decided she wanted to learn to fly. She's in, Pennsylvania, I believe, or Virginia. And she actually moved into a camper and downsized so much, started working at that FBO where the flight school was to help her be able to, pay for gas and things like that. She was really networking and they let her put the trailer there near the airport. And I just talked to her last week and she's getting ready to take her CFI check ride. So there's people, there's a lot of people like that I talk to and that reach out to me, even if it wasn't a scholarship applicant, that just say, I love what you do. And I try to be really positive. Like I'm all about women, helping women. It's not a competition. I want us to all, cheer for each other. If one woman can succeed, then that's great. And that just means that we could all succeed. That doesn't mean, one person wins and we all fail. So we can all do it. And for me to hear from people that, like a quote or something that I put on Instagram, inspired them that day. And sometimes they're down in the dumps because their check ride didn't go well, or they send me an email because, they didn't pass their check ride or something happened. Then I'm just thrilled that they would reach out to me, that they feel comfortable, sending me a message. And I always reply to messages and, want them to know, people fail check rides. Yeah. You gotta keep going. You gotta go back. I failed my IFR check ride the first time. A lot of people don't know that, but I learned more from failing that check ride. It was a good thing because the lesson that I learned from it, I'll never forget, and I'll never make that mistake if I'm flying IFR. So sometimes that's how you learn the best, and you have to fail at some things to learn.
It's interesting that you say it like that, because a couple of weeks ago I interviewed Brandon Spain. He's a friend locally who's a pilot, and he was working on his commercial rating. And now his instructor was pretty hard on him for good reason, but he said he started taxiing down the taxiway, and his nose wheel was like a foot and a half off center line of the taxiway. His instructor said, "Turn around, shut it down." What? It was a little failure, but what he learned from that was the need for precision. But without his instructor being that hard and it's sort of failing that moment for him, he wouldn't have learned that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's super embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. Everybody at Sporty's knew that I had failed it, and I come in and it was like, it was the worst feeling ever. But I had to go through that in order to learn a really important lesson. And it was good. I wish that there was something, I was focused on so many other things, little things. I really wasn't focused on what was really important at that moment. And that will, moving forward, if I'm ever in a situation, I'm in instrument conditions, and I'll never forget that, So
I'm only VFR rated right now. And whenever I did my check ride last May, check rides are hard. They put the pressure on you. They put the pressure on you. And so my, there's a name for him. The guy that checks you out. DPE. That's it. So he was former Navy pilot, and he's a really hardcore guy. And during the oral, we had to split it in 2 days. And so the oral exam was in the afternoon of a Thursday. And, whenever they find that soft spot, that weak spot, and they start drilling down in that, man, now he didn't tell me we're done here. He told me to come back. So, I knew that things were okay. Mm-hmm. But after getting drilled on that hard for 4 hours, feeling like I was failing everything.
Yeah.
That was hard. And then the next day, in the plane, drilling on weak spots while we're flying, that was also hard. Now, fortunately, I didn't fail my private check ride, but I sure felt like it. Especially
it's really hard. And they don't, like, the examiners don't give you they're not there to be like,
they're not supposed to help you.
Yeah.
They're supposed to find those weak spots and drill it. Right. Because if you're good at it, okay, great. We're moving on. If you're good at this subject, we're moving on. But in those moments where he was pressuring me so hard, like you said, I learned a lot about myself in that moment. I learned it was more of a personal learning experience than it was a technical learning experience. I mean, the technical piece, I did learn that, thankfully. Mm-hmm. But what I learned about myself under that stress was very revealing. I never really noticed that about myself. And it was like I fought, and then I gave up, and then I fought again. And he was like, that moment of giving up, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So that was like the personal learning moment for me, was whenever he's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And he was really pushing me. I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. And in the situation that he was describing to me, night flying around mountains, and I'm lost. There is no give up moment.
No, right. No, you can't give up. That's true.
One of the things that you mentioned a little bit ago too was kind of reminiscent of something that I heard from Andy Stanley many, many years ago. So especially somebody like in his position, where everybody wants to meet him for coffee and talk about whatever's going on in their life. Many thousands of people in their church. In business and whatever else that people want to. But he said, instead of not doing anything for anyone because you can't do it for everyone, do for one what you wish you could do for all. Mm. And so whenever you're talking about, you had 20 applicants and people have applied for the scholarship, you simply can't do it for everyone, even though you wish you could, but you still do for that one what you wish you could do for all. And I thought that was really neat. So I've heard that before.
Yeah, that's hard. So the last one we just awarded, the most recent Sporties and I collaborated on a $4,000 scholarship, and I had 315 applicants for that. And they each had to write an essay, and I have to form a committee because I just can't read all of those. Yeah. But I want to so badly. And I know every single one of them deserves it. I wish I could give it to all of them, because they all have a unique story and they all have struggles, I know, and they all have, they wouldn't be applying for the scholarship. They need help, so it's hard, but hopefully I can relay in some way through social media that I know it's hard. I know it's a struggle, but we have to keep feeding ourselves positive thoughts. And I'm just going to keep encouraging everybody that you just got to keep going. And how embarrassing things can be when you have a bad flight day, and you're flying and you're just terrible and you feel like I can't do anything right. Everybody feels like that at some point.
Yeah.
And knowing that kind of always helped me not feel so alone. If I didn't feel so alone, then I felt like, well, if everybody else can get through it, then I can get through it. I can suck it up.
Yeah. That's so good. So in your, you've had to go through lessons in business in Apparel to the foundation, what's some of the lessons that you have learned in business, whether it's, your mindset, your mission, and even sales and marketing? I mean, and maybe we could talk about that later, but what's some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in business in doing this over the past?
Well, in doing this, so there's been some other things that I've kind of dabbled in, and like selling clothes independently. There was, direct sales and things like that with things, and I never really loved it. So once you find that thing you love, like, it's just hopefully obvious to everybody how much I love doing what I'm doing with FlyGirl.
Yeah.
You got to find something you love to be really good at it. I feel like it has to be something that you really enjoy and you're really passionate about, you believe in, and then it doesn't feel like work. You hear people saying, if you're doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I really do. I feel like it's like a fun hobby for me. I mean, I enjoy it. And I think I told you I do most everything myself. I have a college intern that helps me with some things. And I've had people that I've hired to do various little jobs, but mostly to teach me how to do it, so that I wouldn't have to rely on them, but to teach me how to edit videos or teach me how to do podcasts. And then I just kind of like wanted to learn to do it myself. Unfortunately, probably, here's something that I've learned, and I'm going to say it, but I don't know if I'm going to do anything about it. I probably should relinquish some control to other people. I like to know what's going on. I like to be in control of all of it. And I had a video editor working for me for a while. And the problem for me was I just couldn't get her to understand my personality and reflect that in the videos. So with that kind of supported my idea that I kind of need to do everything on my own, which is probably not true. I probably should look to others to do other things. But it's really hard to make someone as passionate as you are about it.
Right.
That's hard.
I get it. I understand. Yeah. I understand, but for some reason, a long time ago, I don't know why it clicked with me. Maybe a natural lazy bent. I would try to find somebody else to do something for me. Mm-hmm. If I could find somebody else to do it, especially an area that I'm weak in. I'm not a graphic designer. I mean, I would still use clip art on a Microsoft Word document if it was up to me.
Yeah.
Actually, I would probably just use Canva right now. But like graphic design, I'm not good at that. Fortunately, I've got some virtual assistants that are spectacular.
Yeah.
And I would spend all day tinkering and trying to get it, and it still doesn't look good. Mm-hmm. But then they have just that creative imagination that could take it. It's like, I want this and I want this, and they make it. It's wow. So
yeah,
I'm not here to consult with you.
Yeah.
But if there's things that can be done better by somebody else, by all means, try to either automate or delegate.
Yeah.
Because then
I definitely do a lot of automating things. I figured out how to use different programs and apps and things to help with certain things. Very and then cool. the college intern that I use does some things that I like to do, but I don't need to spend my time doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can I get a little geeky?
Yes, please.
What are your favorite automation tools? What are you talking about?
Well, I use Buffer.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
Yes.
Schedule my posts.
On Instagram too, because it doesn't seem to work that well on Instagram.
I do use it for Instagram, yes. And I actually do. So I have a client that I do his social media stuff as well, and I use Buffer for that as well.
Okay.
There is something I can't remember with his. I couldn't get it to do Instagram, so I have to do that separately. It has to do with the Facebook page, like linking it with his Facebook page.
Right.
For some reason, it doesn't link. And so I have to do his separately. And then I have to do, but for me, it works out fine.
Yeah.
However,
Cool.
Sometimes it's not always like, sometimes it doesn't allow me to put in hashtags in the comments. So there's,
I don't want you to have to reinvent the whole wheel here, but I've been using Later.
Yeah.
For social media scheduling, especially. Okay. So I use Meet Edgar for evergreen posts because they go into a little bank and you can schedule it different days of the week, different times of the day. And if it's an evergreen type post, it won't stop.
Okay.
Buffer, once it gets to the bottom of that queue, it stops, and you got to make sure that you remember to go fill it up again.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not posting anything.
That's true.
On Later, it's much, much better for like scheduling ahead of time. Plus, it works great with Instagram.
Okay. I'm writing that down right now.
And here's what's cool about it, is it's got a hashtag. If you use the paid version, I'm doing like the $9 a month version.
Yeah.
It's got a hashtag suggestion thing.
Okay.
So you can use the hashtag suggestion in the main part of the text or in the first comment. Mm-hmm. Either way, but it's got suggestions. Now, I've gone to other hashtag suggestion tools before to find like the top 30 ones in aviation or pilot and other stuff like that. But really, what I've noticed, it's like you can start real broad. Aviation, there's millions and millions and millions of posts that use aviation. But then you want to include like 3 parts, really broad,
right,
somewhat niched, and then down in your
really
niche.
Specific. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like 3 groups, and you got 30 to choose from. So break it up into 10s. And but I've also heard some people say don't use the same ones on every post. So it's got to be mixed up a little bit.
Yeah.
But Later will help you do that in Instagram.
Okay.
You can prepare the stories in Later, but then it still kind of has like a manual reminder. But now on, once you schedule them, just a regular post in the feed, that will post. You don't have to, it doesn't send you a reminder to your phone and then you open it up and then you post it. It doesn't do that. It actually posts to Instagram. Yeah. And so you can do that with Instagram, Facebook, and there's others, but those are the only
Twitter, LinkedIn. Okay.
I'm sure LinkedIn and Twitter. One or the other.
Yeah.
But so that's what I use, and it works out really, really well.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I use Canva a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love getting in there and creating stuff. I have a good time with that.
So cool that they've got the videos in there now. They used to not have videos.
I know. Yeah. And I'm trying to learn all that too. The video thing is like, I'm not a teenager, so it takes me a while to figure things out. I use a lot of photo editing stuff because, I'm like with airbrush and things. You can create different vignettes and things like that. And then InShot is a video photo merger program that I use a lot for like stories and things like that. I think those are probably my favorites.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get really geeked out about tools and software and stuff like that. But at the same time, I use my team for like, here's what I want. Let them do it, because even though I like that stuff, it's really better for me to let them do it.
Well, it's a time sucker. I mean,
oh my word. Yeah.
So that's kind of usually what my college intern does. She helps create and schedule the posts because it takes, and I like to try to stay, like 3 weeks out or something like that, have them scheduled. So, like when I have COVID, like I did, and I don't have to worry about things being posted, then she usually takes care of that aspect for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit of a big question that we that I haven't discussed with you. So here we go.
Okay.
Ready for it?
I don't know.
All right. Where do you see Fly Girl Enterprises, LLC and Foundation? Where do you see that going in 5 or 10 years from now? What do you want? What do you hope happens?
Well, I hope the scholarships can give more and more away. I mean, that's a huge thing for me. That's what I really want to do. Even if it doesn't, then I'm prepared personally just to make sure I can give away at least one scholarship a year. That's kind of like my minimum. If I have more, then I'll give it away. Now, Sporties has been very generous, and they've gone in with me on several scholarships. So if I can continue collaborating with them, and our relationship is good, so I don't see that changing. We are getting ready to come out with some new stuff for the summer. So, and I would like to, that creative part, I like to come up with new things like that as well. So working with them, I enjoy designing new things, and hopefully I'll continue that. I guess, I thought about writing a book. It's kind of another thing that was actually on my bucket list too, to write a book. And I think the more I get into flying and the more I learn about the type of person that becomes a pilot, the more I can see, looking back on my life, some of those traits that I didn't really recognize at the time. I was like, I think this is a common trait that a lot of pilots have, is this kind of wanting to be a little different, wanting to be a little unique and stand out from the average person. Yeah. And looking back on my life and seeing, I did this at this age, and I think personality plays into so much of what people pursue for careers and what they turn out to be really good at. Instead of denying those things about our personality because it makes us different, and maybe people will not understand us or think we're strange, or but to embrace that, and use those things to really find your talent and to help other people with it, which I feel like I'm doing. I want to help other people so much, and that's what makes me want to keep going, because that just feeds me.
That's so good. That really is, really and truly. That mission, the personal mission to serve and help others. And those that I've seen really succeed in business and in foundations and things like that, that's been a common denominator. Is it's not just about earning a dollar, but it's about who you serve and serving them well.
Yeah.
So we're recording this podcast, but you have a podcast of your own, right?
Yeah, me and a girlfriend of mine who's also a pilot have a podcast called Cockpits and Cocktails. But not at the same time. I like to say that.
Let's just make this clear. Disclaimer.
Right. We like to talk about cockpits while we're having cocktails. Right. Not advocating for drinking in the cockpit. No.
Right. So what all do y'all talk about there?
We talk about, we only have women on. It's only focused on women and the different types of careers. We bring women on that have some type of career in aviation, whether it's an airline pilot, a corporate flight attendant, they're, like a nurse that flies on like a life flight.
Oh, wow.
Some female involved in aviation in some aspect, air show pilots. We've had people, we just recorded one with two female aircraft jet brokers, and talking about what those jobs are, because I think some people think the only thing you do really in flying is fly for American Airlines or whatever. And that's when you're going to school, you want to fly for an airline. Well, there's so many other things that people don't really know about, and they're really not talked about a lot in like high school and things like corporate aviation. You never really heard about that, or brokering jets, or working for air traffic control. I mean, there's just so many things you can do if you have some kind of love of aviation. Maybe you don't want to fly necessarily, but you like that. And even volunteering things like with the Commemorative Air Force, we'll have people on talk about what they do at air shows and things like that. So fighter pilots, any female involved in aviation in some aspect, we'd like to interview them, talk to them, and get them to share their story so that people can learn from that.
Very cool. Very cool. What brokers have you had? Because two of them that I also follow on Instagram come to mind. One, I believe, is in Georgia. Sharon Rayab. She runs another page called Lifestyle Aviation.
Yeah.
I believe she works for Textron.
Okay. Well, Mindy Lindheim was one. She's Schmindy.
Yes. Yeah, that was another one.
She was on, and then we just had two women on with Jet Aviva.
Okay.
Is the name of the company they work for.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Mindy. But I wasn't sure what her name was, because I see Schmindy and I'm like, that's not it. That's not it. But then Sharon, she, like I said, that Lifestyle Aviation. But I'm 99% sure that she works for Textron.
Okay.
Anyway,
is she on Instagram too?
Yes.
I have to look her up.
We
had a girl on too that sells actually avionics for airplanes. Like she's a
cool.
regional sales. I don't know if she's called a regional sales director, but she talked a little bit about her job. She works for Avidyne and she travels to all over really Southeast region. And it was interesting. I'm always interested to hear what these jobs are, what they entail. You can always learn something from someone else in aviation, I feel like.
What would be really cool? What? And I'm sure it's probably not that hard to, as long as it doesn't rock the boat with sporties, to have Martha King come on the show.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Oh no, they don't really care. They're open to, yeah. And I've met Martha King at Women in Aviation conference. She would be great. She's a great guest. She's on my list. I kind of have an ongoing list of people that I want to invite on the show.
Right.
So yeah, she would be great.
Yeah. I bet now, too bad that the stinking air shows were all canceled last year, but that has got to be one of the best places to go meet and network and be like, you would be a perfect fit for the show.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be.
Well, every person is, I feel like every person has some kind of aviation story.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has, of course, I mean,
I was just thinking concentrated area of people. Then, you go into different vendor tents and this lady works for this company.
Totally.
She works for this company. Boom, all right there.
Yeah.
But, Sun and Fun, I believe that's on.
I love Sun and Fun. Yes. Are you going?
I would like to. That's also like the week and weekend of my daughter's birthday.
Oh. So
we'll have to see if I'm going to a birthday party or maybe bringing the party to Lakeland.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm planning to go. That's probably my favorite air show. I'll go to Oshkosh, but I really like the one in Lakeland because it just kind of like seems like the kickoff for the air show season, Yeah.
Now my dad, he works for Continental. He does some contract work for Continental Motors over in Fairhope and Mobile. So he often goes to Lakeland and Oshkosh.
Yeah. So. They are fun. And that's another thing that I love about aviation. I think that's another reason why for women, why I'm so passionate about getting them into it is the support in the aviation community. And I'm sure it's the same for men too. It's just a very different from what I've experienced, moms, soccer moms, things like that can be very competitive. And my kid made straight A's and my kid is the quarterback or whatever. You don't really have that in aviation. I've found we're not trying to one up each other. We're, I feel like just really happy that, when someone gets a new rating or we know what the check ride is like, we know how hard it is and we want to celebrate with them. And I love to network and meet other women and other men too. Just that whole aviation community is just a support like none other that I've experienced outside of just my, family.
It really is a great community. And what's been exciting is I tend to spend more time on Instagram now than I used to on Facebook. The aviation community that is out there in social media on Instagram really it's amazing. It really is. And so it's perfect that you have been able to grow your following, not just to serve the business, but to also support the mission. And, it's really encouraging to see that. It's really encouraging. Where can people go to find out more about the Fly Girl Enterprises? I keep saying that to.
Well, I have a website, FlyGirlLLC.com.
Mm-hmm.
That will have information on the past scholarship winners and, some blogs, some videos, products. You can also find the Fly Girl products at Sporties.com.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have a larger range of products there, and I would recommend checking that out. And then at Fly Girl Kelley's on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn, I guess. It's hard to all the places,
right?
And then the Cockpits and Cocktails is available wherever you listen to podcasts. So you can just search for Cockpits and Cocktails, and it's myself and then a friend of mine, Fly Alyssa, who she also became a pilot a little bit later in life. She was in her early 30s when she decided to learn to fly. So yeah, that's where you can find us and send us a message or email me or whatever. I'm happy to help in any way. People email me all the time. Like, do you know of an instructor in Colorado? Do you know of, where I can get this plane inspected in Delaware? And I can usually try to find someone that might have a connection, someone that's in that area that can hopefully help that person.
Wow. That's really cool. So thank you. This has been really cool. I almost a little starstruck that I've been talking to the Fly Girl herself. But I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know that this is going to be this is a great story and great conversation to share with others through the podcast and everywhere else that we reach folks with this. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I enjoy talking about flying, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you and getting to know you better too.